Chapter 14 The Getaway. We were feeling pretty good after breakfast, so we took my canoe and went out on the river. We fished a little and had lunch. When we got home, everyone was so worried they didn't know which end was up. They made us go right to our rooms after supper and never let on a word about the letter. About 11 o'clock, Tom slipped out of the window and headed for the hut. I went down to the cellar and get some last minute provisions. When I came back up the stairs and walked into the sitting room, I nearly fainted. My, but there was a crowd in there. 15 farmers, and every one of them had a gun. I was so powerful sick that I slunk to a chair. Everyone was real nervous. Obviously, they had all gathered to try and catch the gang that was planning to free Jim. It was about this time that I realized that Tom's sense of adventure had gone too far. Anyway, when Aunt Sally saw me, she scolded me for leaving my room and sent me straight back upstairs. I was upstairs in a second and out the window in another one. I ran to the hut faster than I ever thought it was possible. I could hardly get my words out, I was so anxious. I told Tom as quickly as I could that we didn't have a minute to lose. His eyes just blazed with excitement, and I could see that he wasn't scared at all. In a few seconds we could hear the tramp of men coming to the door, and then we heard them fumble with the padlock. Next thing we know, they were inside. Tom, Jim, and I crept under the bed and slid out through the hole we had dug. We crept through the darkness to the fence which surrounded the plantation. Jim and I got over it in no time, but Tom's breeches caught on a splinter and on top rail. As he tried to pull it loose, the splinter snapped and made a noise. Next thing we heard was someone shouting, "Who's that? Answer or I'll shoot." But we didn't answer. We just jumped up and ran. Then there was a rush and a bang. Bang, bang, and the bullets fairly whizzed around us. We heard the men shout, "There they are! Set the dogs loose!" We followed the path to the river. Soon the dogs caught up with us, but they were our dogs, so we stopped in our tracks till they caught up with us. When they saw it was us, they sniffed a bit, then continued running along the path away from us, barking and clattering. We followed the path of the canoe and hopped in. We pulled for dear life toward the middle of the river, then we struck out easy and comfortable for the island where my raft was. In the background we could hear the men yelling and the dogs barking at each other all up and down the bank. Soon we were so far away that the sounds got dim and died out, and as soon as I could step up on the raft, I sat down next to Jim real proud and spoke. Jim, you're a free man, and I bet you won't ever be a slave again." We were all as glad as could be, but Tom was the gladdest. Then Tom told us some awful news. He had a bullet in his calf. Suddenly Jim and me, we didn't feel as brave as we had before. The wound was hurting Tom considerably. It was bleeding too. We laid him down and tore up a shirt to bandage the wound, but Tom wanted to do everything himself. He thought it was all part of the adventure. I wasn't so sure. "What do you think we should do, Jim?" I asked. "Well, Huck, I don't think we should budge a step until we get a proper doctor to fix Tom's leg." I knew it might ruin everything, but we had to think of Tom now, so I told Jim to run and lie in the woods. Then I made Tom comfortable on the raft and tied the raft up to a tree on the bank. I took the canoe and crossed the river to the town to find a doctor. It wasn't hard to find the doctor's house. In small towns, everyone knows just where the doctor lives. I knocked on the door and told him that my brother and I were over on Spanish Island hunting and that my brother must have kicked his gun while he was snapping, because it went off and shot him in the leg. I asked the doctor to fix it so that we could go home without worrying our folks. The doctor looked kind of curious, but he got his bag and followed me to the canoe. He took one look at the canoe and said, "I'm not sure it's safe for the two of us." "But doctor," I said, "we rode to the island in it." "Well, son, I don't trust it. Suppose you wait here on the shore while I go tend your brother." I couldn't argue with him, but as he rode off I got to thinking. Suppose it took a couple of days for the doctor to fix up Tom's leg. What was I going to do, lay around here until he got better? No, sir. That's when I decided that if the doctor had to take care of Tom for a few days, then I'd be there too. What if that doctor let the cat out of the bag about Jim? Then Jim would be in real trouble, and he would never be a free man again. I just had to get back to the island and see what was up. But it was too late that night to get back to the island, so I just crept into a lumber pile near the river to get a little sleep. When I woke up, the sun was away up over my head. I shot out and went over to the doctor's house, but they told me he'd gone away in the night some time or other and he wasn't back yet. Well, I began to think that this looked real bad for Tom. I'd better head for the island right away, so I began heading out of town towards the river. Just as I turned a corner, I nearly walked right into Mr. Phelps. "Why, Tom, where you been all this time, you rascal? Everyone's been real worried about you where you and Sid had gone." My mind worked like lightning. I said, "Oh, we're fine. We followed the men and the dogs, but they outran us and we lost them. Then we thought we heard them on the water, so we got a canoe and took out after them. We crossed over but couldn't find anything. Then we cruised up shore until we got kind of tired. We tied up the canoe and went to sleep. We just woke up an hour ago and paddled over here to take the news." Sid's at the post office to see what he can hear. When we went to the post office to get Sid, of course he wasn't there. We waited a while, but soon Mr. Phillips got tired of waiting around. He made me go back home with him, even though I told him I wanted to wait around for Sid. When we got home, Aunt Sally was so glad to see me that she laughed and cried at the same time. The house was full of people, talking and speculating about the gang and the runaway slave and all the exciting news. Well, after we finished dinner, there was still no sign of Sid. Aunt Sally was beside herself with worry. She sent some men to the town to scout around for him, and then, when I went up to bed, she fetched her candle and came up with me. She tucked me in and mothered me so good, I felt mean. I couldn't look her in the face. She sat down on the bed and talked with me for a long time. She talked about what a fine boy Sid was, and if I reckon he could have gotten lost or hurt or even drowned. The tears dripped slowly from her eyes, and I felt so bad I almost told her everything. And then, when she was leaving, she looked down in my eyes so steady and gentle and said, "The door isn't going to be locked, Tom. And there's the window, but you'll be good, won't you, for my sake?" I wanted to go so badly, but after what she said, I couldn't leave the house. Still, Tom was on my mind, so I hardly slept at all.